0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Lining up, Adrian Noble, and here it comes. Hoover kick, Canucks.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Game Day. Back here on Eagle Tuesday to cover, what is this, week 12 of the NFL, I believe. And, got some crazy games that happened along with the Eagles game themselves. So, we obviously had the Thanksgiving games, like Buffalo taking on Detroit. And, very close game, which had a lot of people sort of worried, sort of confused a bit, Detroit was keeping it close with Buffalo, making people kind of think what's been happening with Buffalo these past couple weeks, where they've either been losing games or they've just, it's been close games that really shouldn't have been close for a team like Buffalo. And to my surprise, I didn't even know this. What's it called? They're not even the division leader anymore. After watching the final game on Sunday Night Football, they were showing during the Eagles-Packers game, they were like, oh yeah, here's what the playoff picture's looking like. And I think Miami overtook Buffalo for the East division leader. And that was surprising that Buffalo was now fighting for like a wild card spot. And of course, it isn't as bad as what's going on in the NFC, as we'll get to later. That's a crazy scene to look at. But yeah, the Giants lost to Dallas on Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then Minnesota beat New England. Kind of obvious there, but so 3 pretty good Thanksgiving games. Denver loses to Carolina, and my goodness, I don't even know what you blame it on anymore. Do you blame it on Russ? Do you blame it on the head coach and its terrible play calling? Because as far as I remember, with Russ, he was supposed to be able to elevate this team, and my goodness, man. My goodness. Cleveland beat Tampa Bay, which is a good thing because you don't want Tom Brady making the playoffs. So the more losses they can take and allow some other team like Atlanta to take it, sure, why not? And also, I just thought of it. I know when we first talked about it on this podcast, I said I wouldn't get into it too much, but Deshaun Watson returns next week, and of course it's a game against Cleveland. No surprise there. Jacksonville coming out and surprising everybody. They beat the Ravens in a close one. Came down to the very last drive where Doug Peterson, like classic Doug Peterson, decides to go for a 2-point conversion. And that helps beat the Ravens, which was pretty crazy to see. The Ravens fall to 7-4, and I think they're still in the playoff picture. Who could be above them? I think Cincy's above them. Yeah, I think Cincy's above them now. After that loss, let me double check, just because I forgot what the AFC's playoff picture was looking like. I've been paying too much attention to the NFC standings and all that. Oh wait. Okay, so they both have the same record, but I wonder who has the advantage, because let's see, where's the playoff picture? Oh, here it is. Oh no, they still had the division. I guess they have. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they still have the advantage over Cincy, it says. Interesting. Yeah, so it's the crazy part, because people thought they were going to fall off when they lost Tyreek Hill, the number 1 seed. And looking like it's going to be, what now, the 4th, 5th year in a row that Kansas City hosts their playoff games at Arrowhead. They're 9-2. And then right now, Miami's the 2 seed. Tennessee's the 3 seed. Baltimore's the 4 seed. Buffalo, the 5 seed. Cincy, the 6 seed. New York, the 7 seed. And if you want to say like who's in the hunt, you got the Patriots and the Chargers pretty much. But man, that's a pretty crazy thing, like I said, about the Chiefs, because like I said, people expected them to fall off. Everyone was like, oh, they're not gonna have Tyreek. And I remember I was looking, not necessarily looking, but like people were especially trying to say those thoughts after like the first week or two and all that, and just look at the run they've gone on, you know, like real quickly. I want to see. They lost to the Colts and they lost to the Bills, and now they've been on a 5-game winning streak. Dang. Definitely going to be a scary team to have to face off against. And speaking of scary teams having to face off against, the 49ers. I know the game they had this week against the Saints wasn't too crazy in terms of scoring. But my goodness, man. I'm telling you. This is a scary team that we're going to have to face off against, you know, because especially like if, like, I don't know, man, like I want to say like if they can stay healthy, because that's always been a thing with the 49ers, if they can stay healthy. But my goodness, is this going to be like a scary one to see, because my goodness, man, having to defend against George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey, it's going to be pretty crazy to deal with. Eddie Tebow has to deal with that. Really tough matchup, especially because people keep trying to make all these different stats look unimpressive, but it's absolutely crazy to me that they've gone. Oh my gosh, how many games is it? Oh my gosh, I saw the stat last night and I'm blanking on it, but they've basically gone like a certain amount of time without allowing a score in the second half. And you guys know, I mean, it hasn't been the problem recently. They've been fixing it, but at the start of the season, that was an issue for the Eagles, was they weren't scoring much in the second half. That would be one of the worst teams for the Eagles to match up against, but it would also probably be a very fun game to see. Speaking of fun games to see, the Raiders versus Seahawks was a crazy one, with this being the second week in a row that Las Vegas wins, you know, in overtime. Josh Jacobs just went off 33 carries for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns, with one of those touchdowns coming in the final drive of overtime. Pretty crazy stuff to see. I was going to say, oh, maybe the Raiders can, you know, breathe new life like how they did last season. But they're 4-7. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams out of that final playoff spot. I don't think they get it, sadly. But it's just crazy to see that the past 2 weeks they've done that. A matchup that probably seemed more fun on paper at the start of the season, the Rams versus Chiefs, just ends up being, you know, a pretty easy game for the Chiefs to run away with, you know, 26-10. Nothing much going on with the Rams. Probably, as many have said, the biggest case of a Super Bowl hangover they've ever seen is they just immediately, I know they've had injuries, but they've just not been good. The Monday night game, surprising. Pittsburgh steals the win against Indy. Pretty surprising in the sense of, like, I don't know, I guess this game could have gone to any of the two teams, but let's focus on the most, or I can't say the most interesting matchup when that Seahawks-Raiders game happened, but one of the most interesting games from the week. The Sunday night game, Green Bay Packers coming to Philadelphia to face off against the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles. And, yeah, if you remember correctly, I was like, oh, we're going to lose this game because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. You know, you can never discount him and all that. And though he was kind of proving that point, you know, at times, if you, like, were watching the game where, you know, he was going pretty crazy, you know, or not crazy, but, you know, he was keeping things close. He was keeping things tied up. Like, if you look at is it the recap? No, not the recap. Is it box scores? Where do I see the quarter breakdown? I swear, I always try and look for this stuff. Here, hold on. Sorry. Of course, You want good stats, you got to go to Pro Football Reference. Let's see. Philadelphia going against the Packers. Here we go. Here's the box score. Yeah. By the end of the first quarter alone, it was 14-13. And then after that, it wasn't close at all. The Eagles just ran away with this game because they got 6 points in the second, which got them to 20. But then we got 14, so that put us up 27. Correct? Yeah, 27. And then we get to the third quarter. They only score 3. We score 7. Then we score 6, and they score 10 in the fourth, which we'll get into like how all that happened. But they were keeping it close for the most part until we just decided to fully run away with the game. And run away with the game we did, because in the first quarter alone, Jalen Hurts had over 100 rushing yards. He had like 102 rushing yards, which was insane. Miles Sanders had, I want to say both his touchdowns came in that first quarter. Let's see. Yeah. No. He got a touchdown in the first quarter, and then he started off the second quarter with that second rushing touchdown. He would finish on the day with 21 carries, 143 yards. Kenneth Gainwell contributing 8 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Insane stuff from the rushing game. Jalen Hurts obviously contributed through the air with 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you got to feel bad for Darius Slay, because he was talking all about, I've intercepted Tom Brady, I've intercepted Drew Brees, I haven't gotten Aaron Rodgers. And it's crazy to think he hasn't gotten Aaron Rodgers because of the fact that he was literally playing in his division, like, I want to say 3 years ago now at this point. And Aaron Rodgers did throw 2 interceptions, and so he was looking like the Aaron Rodgers of this season. But those 2 interceptions did not go to Darius Slay. They went to... Who got the interceptions? Oh my gosh. I know one of them was Reed Blankenship, because he was filling in after C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down, and hoping the best, man. It sucks to see that guy go out, especially after, just a monster, like, not even second half, just season he's been having where he's leading the league in interceptions, and he went on that crazy streak. But he filled in pretty nicely for just a short little bit, and you just kind of want to see more of him in coverage after that play. And then the other interception. Who got the other interception? Josiah Scott. There we go. Yeah. And that one came... When did that one came? Oh, my God. Well, that was in the second, I believe, right? No, or was that... No, I think that was in the first. Because that's what allowed us to go up 14-0, if I remember correctly. Let me look at this play-by-play. Because that will tell me. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here it is. Interception, yeah. That was the interception to Josiah Scott. And then the other interception came in the second quarter? Wow. Yeah, it came in the second quarter. It was a pretty crazy game, I'm not lying. Like, watching them go back-to-back was honestly crazy. Especially because, Philly didn't go up 14-0 on them. They went up 13-0 because they missed a kick. But Aaron Rodgers came back with 2 of his own. And then they pretty much did nothing the rest of the game. Because, A.J. Dillon obviously had the rushing touchdown. There was that crazy touchdown that he threw to Aaron Jones, which was absolutely insane how the Eagles let that up. That was crazy. I couldn't believe that. Christian Watson continuing to emerge as the Packers, I guess you could say, number 1 wide receiver. 4 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Glad I picked him up in fantasy. Although I've still been doing terrible because I don't know how to game manage. What else? On our receiving end, it was pretty good for the most part, even though it was mainly a rushing game. Devontae Smith, 50 yards on 4 catches. A.J. Brown, 46 yards on 4 catches with a touchdown. Though he had another fumble, really has become an issue with that guy. And a lot of people have kind of been disappointed with his play, but then they've also been saying that he's sick. He's been so sick that he's been throwing up, and he's been throwing up so much that he popped a blood vessel in his eye, which is pretty crazy. I'm hoping all the best for A.J. Brown and hoping he can get healthy and hoping, just for the best for that guy. I don't want people to pressure him into unjustly, start talking on his name when, it's clear that he's going through some severe illness, So hoping the best for him and hoping he gets healthy soon, along with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, along with Dallas Goedert, Jordan Davis, all those guys, anyone who's on the injury reserve. Quez Watkins contributed 3 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown, which was a really good deep ball from Jalen Hurts to Quez Watkins, and people kind of knew it the moment they saw him on Rasul Douglas, because no disrespect to Rasul Douglas, he held it down, those years here in Philly, but, he's not necessarily the fastest corner, so people saw that matchup and were like, yeah, this is a good opportunity to throw it deep to Quez if Jalen ever had an opportunity. And then we had 2 fumbles on the night. A.J. Brown was the only one that we lost, though. And then the defense held up pretty well. Hassan Reddick got half a sack because he combined with Brandon Graham for that sack. Honestly, you might want to put 0.3 sack, because I think that was the sack where 3 guys got to Aaron Rodgers, and it was absolutely insane. Josh Sweat also got a sack. Fletcher Cox got a sack. Real impressive game, although they were kind of struggling with the run at times. Really hoping for Jordan Davis back, because my goodness, I obviously talked about it. I brought up the stats in that Detroit game. I think it was all that early in the season, that far early in the season. Where it's like, this is how much yards they allowed when he wasn't on the field. This is how much they allowed when he was, and it's just crazy to see the impact that he had on this team's rushing defense. And even with the additions of, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, it still shows how badly his presence is missed. Which, looking at the box score, this is really weird. Unless I'm blanking, I don't see Ndamukong Suh's name on here. So did he play? I don't think he played, actually. What the heck? That's weird. But what else happened? I mean, the kick returning was decent, but man, our special teams is really scaring us. We might be, what year of the Chargers was it, where they had the number 1 offense, number 1 defense, and they didn't make the playoffs because their special teams unit was just absolutely terrible. They gotta find a way to fix it. There's just, I don't know, there's no excuse for some of the baffling plays we've had on kick returns. Four returns basically for 91 yards for Boston Scott. Compare that to Nixon from the Packers, who on kick returns alone had 5 for 172 yards. Insane. With his longest one going for 53. We cannot allow that. But, again, the main talk of this game was just the absolute rushing that they went on. And I haven't said it yet, and I'm surprised that they mentioned it yesterday, but shout out to the offensive line for holding it down for those boys and allowing them to run like that. Absolutely insanity. Jason Kelce got his first Sunday Night Football ball, for, his outstanding performance, and it was just absolutely insane what that offensive line did during that game. Insanity that they, did that, and even they only let up 2 sacks, really, which, they weren't that bad, and it was just crazy to see. Really impressive effort from this team. I know the score makes it look closer than it was, but it was not, By the time that 4th quarter came rolling around, well, of course, we kind of let them get back into it, but it wasn't that much. We were holding it down pretty well. Kept the game in control. Didn't allow them to pull what the Commanders did and take control of that game. But yeah, pretty impressive win. Happy to see it. And moving on to next week against the Titans. Hoping we can stop Derrick Henry. Really hoping we can stop Derrick Henry. And once we do, it should be a pretty, fair game, Hoping A.J. Brown's healthy, because, he wants to play and win this game. But, I just don't know. I mean, you gotta, I don't know. Maybe it's the skepticism in me, because I know what this team has done to me in the past, but, you gotta assume they take more losses and don't just finish with 1 on the season. I think they lose to the Titans. I think thankfully we've caught the Giants looks like a down slate, so we can hopefully win that game after that. The Bears should be pretty easy, because Justin Fields, I mean, I know he's supposed to come back this week, but he hasn't really been the same. Or not that he hasn't been the same, but there's some concern with the injury is what I've heard. We got Dallas on Christmas Eve, hoping they don't spoil it. Then the Saints should be easy, of course. But again, that Saints game and that Giants game at the end should come down to the fact of, are we playing for the division or not, depending on who we send out. And of course, we may have to be just going full force the rest of the season, even though you don't want to risk injury, because you look at the NFL and the NFC standings for the playoffs, and it is quite the craziest thing you've ever seen. The Eagles are at 10-1, and right now they hold the advantage over the Vikings because they beat them week 2. So the Vikings are 9-2 in second place. Then the 49ers are 7-4. They lead their division. The Bucks at 5-6 right now. And then you look at the wild card. Dallas 8-3. New York Giants 7-4. And the Washington Commanders at 7-5. The whole NFC East could win the division, and that is the absolute craziest thing I've ever heard. Wait, I'm stupid. My goodness, this is what happens when you record right as soon as you wake up. The whole NFC East could make the playoffs, and is my statement correct? Could the whole NFC East even win? I don't know if the Commanders could win, but the Giants and Cowboys could definitely find a way to win this division if the Eagles just have that second half collapse, But yeah, that whole division could make the playoffs, and that is insanity because everyone was always calling them NFC least, and no one expected that division out of all of them would send all their teams to the playoffs. Like, if there was one that, came close, people probably thought the AFC North would be the one to send all their teams, but the Steelers haven't been that good, and the Browns couldn't be good enough to salvage a playoff spot for when Deshaun Watson came back. But yeah, pretty insanity. They have to win out a lot of these games. They got to beat the Titans, even though I don't think they're going to. They got to beat the Giants. They got to beat the Cowboys on Christmas Eve just to ensure that they hold this number 1 spot, and kind of like the Phillies this season. You got to make them come back to Philly, That's the way you got to win these games, is making them come back to Philly. But that being said, look forward to next week. And as always, thank you all for joining for this episode of Game Day. And as always, remember, many things in this life may seem impossible, but if you fight for your dreams will fight for you. Thank you all for joining, and catch you on the next episode.